What's up, everybody? It's Sunday, September 4th at 7:47 a.m., and it's time for another episode of Comics and Coffee. So, my name's Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. Comics and Coffee is really a weekly show there where I go over what's going to be coming up this week, and it's really kind of like that unedited, raw kind of piece. Now, we're going to try out something new, and that is topics. Bring up the graphic. Okay, I don't have a graphic yet, so I haven't made one. It was just something that I came up with like 4 minutes ago, but ultimately what I wanted to do was cover some various topics, because it doesn't make sense to just be like, I wrote another script, or I have the same videos coming out this week. That doesn't really help out anybody. So what I wanted to do is I kind of wanted to touch base regarding what happened with DC Rebirth. So, as you can see behind me, there's like a Twitter feed and whatnot, and that's, DC has been pumping out all this stuff regarding their DC Rebirth titles, basically saying, you know, over 12 million copies of comics shipped, 11 titles shipping over 200,000 issues, 60 titles shipping over 100,000 issues, and ultimately they're just putting out some insane numbers, like Harley Quinn book shipped over 400,000 copies. So it's one of those really interesting things where, how much of this is really impacting the industry, because overall that's a huge success for DC's Rebirth, and it shows to the quality of the content that they're putting out. However, they did also introduce a very new program where they're allowing buybacks for like the first 5 issues. So essentially, retailers can order whatever they want, without any kind of recourse, and allow the shops to send back what they didn't sell. DC's going to buy back all this stuff. And I can kind of see that in my own local comic book shop. Because when I walk in, right now I could probably go get a copy of Batman issue 2, issue 3, issue 4, issue 5, as well as a variety of the different variants. Like Wonder Woman, Superman, Action Comics, Detective Comics. We're talking like stacks, just like 30 issues, deep of these books. And while they are great books and they're great to read, there was excessive ordering for those particular books because it allowed the opportunity for them to, it's like, okay, it's $2.99, so what's the harm of buying all these particular issues and getting them on the shelf so that way people can purchase them if I'm just going to be able to send them back. So the real test is going to be when the whole September, October numbers come out to see what continuing readership is in those books, because in reality, there's maybe 100,000, 80 to 100,000 regular comic book readers that pick up comic books every month from a local shop, based on Diamond's distribution platform. And what we're seeing right now is a very heavy skew because of all this ordering and the ability for the retailers to send back comics that they don't sell. So I'm kind of curious to see how that's, how many people continue to read these titles compared to how many people initially purchased or how many copies shops initially purchased. So that's a pretty big deal that I kind of want to check out. And the other thing is, I just did my last Marvel Now 2.0 video where we're going over the cancellations, and what I realized is that I didn't really go over anything above 25,000 issues per month. And I did that because I didn't really feel like there was any kind of need to go beyond that, because a lot of those books are going to remain kind of in print. But I'm going to start researching and digging into it to see what other books are going to kind of get pulled back or, canceled or just basically rebooted in a sense that are in that upper tier. But what you run into is like that last video, I went over 27 books and 13 or 14 of them were canceled. So Marvel Now 2.0, I'm not sure how many more books are going to be in that upper echelon. So the current Civil War 2, the main books for their event, those are relatively high sellers. They're hitting 100 to 200,000 copies, but those are not ongoing books. If we're talking about ongoing books, the highest production ongoing book is most likely Amazing Spider-Man, which is a 60 to 80,000 copy kind of book, depending on where we're at in a topic or what kind of like the cover for Amazing Spider-Man 15 with Mary Jane Watson was huge because it's like, oh my god, MJ's in the Iron Spider costume. And it was a little ridiculous what kind of, hype that really got. But hey, you know, there was a super cool cover by Alex Ross. There was another cover by J. Scott Campbell that really accented that, and that's what really drove that hype. But it's interesting because if you're talking about the gap between, you know, like 25,000 and 60,000, you're basically doubling your readership, but there's probably you know, about the same amount of books above, you know, in that 20, I would call it like 25, 30 to 80 range as there was in the 25 to like 10,000 range. So that doesn't really bode well for where Marvel's at in terms of either their marketing of their books or the quality of their content that they're putting out. And a lot of people are kind of jumping on them for how they're producing their books, you know, diversity for the sake of diversity and all that kind of stuff. I'm totally fine with whatever you want to put in a comic book as long as you give me a good story. That's what I need. I need good content. I like good art. I like good storytelling. I like something that's going to capture and engage me. And I think that's the most important thing about comics. It's not about, you know, the color of a skin or sexual orientation or anything like that. The subject matter, it definitely impacts things, you know, because there are some books that are out there that are designed to make us uncomfortable, to make us confront things that are in society. And that's very welcome and it's very open, but you've got to remember that you can't just put that in there to shock and basically berate and beat people with it. You've got to have some sort of compelling, you know, resonant figure that's kind of standing up and moving forward to progress through this injustice. It should be an inspiration, not necessarily just a damnation. You know, you can't just be, you know, cowing these people that are reading your comic book. You can't just basically berate them with how poor they're treating everybody else in society. You have to create a figure that they can rally around to show it's like, you know what, we can be better. And if you don't have a figure that shows we can be better, you lose the compelling nature of having a very, you know, modern and really you lose the compelling portion of the story that's going to engage people and have them keep reading. You know, nobody wants to be talked down to. Nobody wants to be yelled at all the time. You know, it's okay if you can say, it's like, this is everything that you're doing wrong. However, I'm here to help you make it better. Let me show you the way. Let me, you know, you give somebody support. That's what that story is supposed to be about. So, I mean, there's a lot of fluff, you know, it's just like, oh my god, superheroes doing superhero stuff. But when you want to get into real social justice kind of things, you've got to create that pathway. You can't just, you know, show them what's wrong. You got to create a path through that and, you know, show them the way down there as part of the storytelling. It's very, very fickle kind of piece to work on, but ultimately it can be very effective in comic books, and they've done it in the past. I don't see why they can't do it now. And if Marvel was on their game about marketing those kind of things in the way that they should, then they really wouldn't have any publishing problems. But that's neither here nor there, because you're competing against DC, and DC's laying out a ton of great stuff, and Image Comics is doing very good. They've got a lot of really key titles from very good creators that don't have any boundaries. That's the big thing. They don't really have limitations. You know, The Walking Dead turned into a commercialized huge success for Kirkman and the guys at Image and all that kind of stuff. And then you've got great writers like Jonathan Hickman. Jonathan Hickman's doing East of West. You've got Rick Remender, who just finished up Tokyo Ghost, but he's also got Deadly Class, which looks like it's going to be an adaptation to some sort of film or online series. You know, you've got your continuing titles like Spawn, but, you know, Saga, and a bunch of other independent books they're focusing primarily on great storytelling, great art, great content, and they're creating followings, they're creating fan bases, and they're winning over the people that are being engrossed by comic books, and they're not just buying purely on, you know, fandom for a particular character. They're doing a great job as storytellers. So that's where I think independent comics are really shining. That's pretty awesome. That's kind of why I wanted to get into comics. I want to tell stories and write great scenes and you know, have that kind of impact and show that to those people. And I really enjoy that aspect, which is why I started making these videos and the show and all that. So that's kind of where I'm at in my headspace. I feel like DC's doing some great stuff. There's some cool books that are coming out. You know, I'm picking up a series that I kind of dropped a month and a half ago. simply because of the cover and the content of the issue. It looks like it's going to be really fun. The variant's awesome. So you're going to see all that stuff in preview pics, which is going to come out. I'm going to film it today, so it's going to come out tomorrow on Labor Day. I wouldn't expect it in the morning, but most likely, later in the afternoon, sometime around the night. Then we're going to do Shelf Appeal, as always. I'm going to see what I can do for another weekly one-shot, or if I'm going to do, a series of irate reviews. I'm working like 70 hours next week, so it's going to be very difficult for me to put out my videos on time, but I'm going to try and get everything out there for you. That's the downside of a salaried full-time job. When you got to work, you got to work. And then on top of that, it's all about developing new things. I'm very thankful for the new subscribers that I got this week. That's awesome. You guys are great for the support. And as we kind of build up a little bit more, I'm going to start trying to put together content for different giveaways and things, so that way I can kind of give back to you guys in some way and make it a special place to be around here. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, you want me to talk about anything, go over anything like that, hit me up in the comments down below. As always, if you like what you see, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe if you want more news, reviews, and commentary on comic books, comic book movies, TV shows, games, and anything and everything inside the world of comics.